quality of
Well,
coffee?
I think you know, obviously one of the my feeling was I thought yes, you know, $50 probably we should buy it. It's a bit of money, but if we're using if you've got footage, say something like a DVD that you can show at a display, we're obviously talking about having displays at the Royal Show, and that's one of the things we had discussed. You know, we've got our little show in November that we have, then it's not a bad idea to have something that you can sort of put on that's got some bits, and so potentially it's a really good thing.
Being played from America to Australia, isn't it, like there was the old VHS cassette?
Actually, with DVDs, there is a huge issue because they are in fact zoned, right? So you buy a DVD and they're zoned in various ways, and it's really they're actually getting a bit fussy with how you do it, right? Because even computers you buy these days, the drives tend to have zones where you can pick the zones in the drives you use, but you can't swap them. You can only swap a certain number of times, and it's all very low-level hardware stuff that's pretty hard to get around.
It's only Hollywood movies, so there's any other disc with them.
So these are right. Because the old VHS you couldn't play in American tapes.
No,
unless you had a machine that would do it.
no,
So it didn't speed, wasn't it?
Okay, so they won't be zoned. That's good. Excellent. Okay. So have a look at that. Do we have some library report from Richard? Do we have a library report?
No, nothing new has come in so far. I'm just going to do a report for the September issue, but I haven't seen the June one yet, so I don't know how to respond. So.
Okay. Yes, the March bulletin came out in June, and the June bulletin's going to come out.
This one was supposed to be out in June, but it will be out sometime at the end of the month.
Oh, so we're going to get before the September bulletin.
Just waiting for me to do some pictures for it.
You're not stuck at the cause of the problem.
Waited because of the difficulty in getting material for it. And Brian, in fact, said that he was recycling something for the June bulletin to sort of fill it out a little bit from a number of years ago. And he said that he didn't really have any material for the September bulletin. So if people are interested in writing articles, then Brian's more than willing to accept them. I know I'm interested in potentially going to write an article for the September bulletin if I can find some time.
Yes, I think that's part of the
So
problem.
it is. I think it's a problem for everyone. So.
Plants over those 7 years have never been very big, and I've never even looked at the tubers because they're probably so small. So these are 7 years old nearly, over 7 years old. Same pot, same mix, and it's amazing really that they've made what they have. This particular species I know grows in Port Lincoln. They say it grows in South Australia, I've never seen it.
Well, you know it grows in Port Lincoln, so that's true.
I know it grows in Port Lincoln anyway, yeah. I'm not sure about Western Australia either. So it's quite nice plant. If you look at the leaves, they're completely round, the leaves. Quite different to Fanchoni Eye or any of the others. Genlisiae, we all know the story about Genlisiae. They brought no end of them in. I think Shelley's won about 6 in a row in the last couple of months.
No, I have now, this is the
Third one.
This is the first one.
This is the product of the seed.
I must say, they do, runners, have you noticed that? They spread up and spread up all runners and spread themselves that way.
Well, Robert Gill, the friend of the society, he went to South America, and he sent the seeds to Brian.
How the heck did he get it in?
No, well, there shouldn't be any worries. Anyway, he's an native of the Sea, and Brian asked him would I grow them, so I've got a little bit of heat. And this is a leaf coming from those plants. How many were brought into the meeting?
Oh, must be at least 20.
Yeah, I brought a lot of plants in. Everybody should nearly have one by now. And I've still got
Anyone who hasn't got one,
just sing out and have one. $20
one.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll be in favour of
Yours.
Yeah,
The kids with this windows here.
if they were available outside of Australia, they would be $10 to $15 each, easily for a plant that size. polyred plant and a nice.
What's it actually come from? What's its native environment?
Hot, wet, Brazil.
Yeah,
It's
hot
not
water.
on the plains,
No, no, it's fairly, some of them are fairly high up.
Forest from the jungle.
the tropical.
Yeah.
Unlike the
Well, you know, there's 50 dogs. We got season two, and I think really one was a rain and one was biolocate, but they look both look the same. This is a plant everybody should go. Adrian SLACKII wrote the book. This is SLACKII. Beautiful, tough plant. Will grow from root cuttings, will grow from leaf cuttings at a certain time of the year. It's a very nice long-term plant. And the last one, species Hermanus, South Africa. You say it's a big Aliciae, but it's certainly not Drosera-Stricticaulis, and it's not a couple of new ones. It's Fergus-Scarpa, it's Drosera-Hermanus. They do tend to go dormant and they're starting to flower. But they do get quite large. And the last one I brought in, which is another beautiful plant to grow, is the Flora. These go completely dormant. These started to grow probably 2 months ago. And the flowers are fantastic. The flowers are probably inch diameter. And yeah, it's one of the couple of species that's got the largest flowers.
It's a big green one.
There's 5 flowers on here at the moment. That one's a double. That one's probably a double. So, a long-term plant. Now these were grown from a few root cuttings we got from somebody who used that well about 3 years ago. And when I got them, just on each from the white, it's like little hair roots. So they were planted, left from there, and up become a nest.
And are they native to New South Wales?
No, they're South African.
Small South Africa.
Yeah, South African.
There's only Saturday out of the mainland that
That's
It's
what
not
we're
very good.
Okay, we'll leave that. We're going to have a look at the supper, and I'll leave it.
I just stuck it in.
We'll get paid for doing that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I just stuck it in. I just
Okay.
But have a look at what I did.
Alright, I'll be talking about the Carnivorous Drosera. Quite a few of them in here. For anyone that doesn't know what they are, they're all, I think they're all native to Australia, except
The two species, one in South Africa and one up in North Australia called
there's some
Canada.
in New Zealand.
Yeah,
Yeah, so most of them are all native to Australia and they all grow in winter, obviously. They've all, most of them have got tubers down the bottom that they come up from every year. So they use sort of a survival mechanism that they use over summer to avoid the heat.
It's not hard to figure out.
I won't be lifting any of these up, unfortunately, because they're bloody heavy. But I brought in this one in the last meeting for anyone that was here. This is Stolonifera, Drosera-Stolonifera compacta. This is also the same subspecies as well. So I brought them in to just to show a bit of comparison between two different columns that you can get. So,
You pick that one up, I'll pick that one up. Or you want to swap?
that's all right.
Good for you. Like that.
Very green, as you can see. They both get the same light conditions. They're almost growing next to each other.
Why is there a difference?
Just like different forms. You can see the leaf shape is slightly different. These sort of very chunky and grow outwards, whereas these tend to go sort of more vertical and generally much smaller and spindly. Sorry?
We still on that.
Stolonifera compacta. Yeah. They both got very nice flowers. This one's already finished. This one's only just started. Very nice perfume to them. Was there any more?
No, that's the one if you're there, don't do that one.
Yeah, that's Stolonifera.
That one's fun.
Another of the Stoloniferas, this is subspecies correcta, which sort of grows straight up vertically. Fairly ordinary. Yeah, they got this strange little basal, I guess you'd call it a rosette that they have. You can see there's another lot of them here that I brought in. They tend to divide up quite well actually. You can see from these ones, and there's probably about 20 of them in there. They're all sort of clumped together.
I'll find about 3 to 4 tubers on there from each adult tube you put in.
Yeah, they do split up. They just tend to clump, as you can see from this one here. There's about 8 plants in there. But when you give them a bit more light, you notice that they tend to be a bit smaller. But when they're
Actually,
involved,
mine used before in the light. You realize what going up about that tall. Really powerful.
Every time I've had them in low light, they tend to get bigger. So and they tend, you get this sort of a palish colour to them, whereas they go.
I think that'll have more people than you give them too. They seem to be a bit higher than people.
But no, yeah, I do tend to grow mine in a lot of sand, as you can see from the potting mix in these, and this one as well.
Do you need a particular special sand for this?
As
Or
in-
you go and dig it off the side of the road?
No, this is from Kia's sand depot.
No, unfortunately, Kia's are closed down now.
Have it?
Yeah, you have to go to the other one now.
Sloans.
So they're actually a bit cheaper, so
What
that's...
style of sand do you ask for?
Can't remember what this is called. It's a lot of water.
Oh, you came up 40, 60, 30 and in between.
It's not 60-30, it's the one below.
2040?
Medium, fine,
I think it's called
Medium.
K1 something. Yeah.
that's the fine stuff.
No, there's another one though.
It's K80, I think, is the one.
Oh, K55.
Yeah, that's it.
That's the one. Yeah.
K55 is with general use if
That's
you
the
want.
one I generally use. Brian tends to use a sort of larger grain sand.
Yeah, it's 550 microns, that's what it's Keogh's 550 micron sand, and K140 is Keogh's 140 micron sand.
Oh.
Okay.
I generally go along with the same thing.
Yeah, fine, medium, fine.
You can just go in there and have a look. Under the South Australian species, although this one's actually a Victorian form, they tend to, a bit unusual, they tend to branch a lot. They generally go straight up.
That's quite a robust little colony, actually.
Yeah, I didn't put in that many sugars, quite a few more come up, so they tend to divide fairly well every year as well. But this one's pretty unusual because they usually go straight up and the leaves come off the side. But this one's got a lot of branches at every little fork. It's sort of unusual for them, that's what
That's the one of the differences between Auriculata and Peltata. Auriculata has far more tendency to the fork off and turn to a small bush, so to speak, than Peltatas.
We saw a bushy one on a wall.
Yeah, remember we plotted that?
Yeah. It looked like a little tree.
It had all
Interesting.
main glowing stems on it, if I remember correctly.
Yeah. This is the same thing. I think it came from the
We're
same
right.
area too.
Yeah, that's when we're at the day.
No, Winter and Victoria.
There's also a window as well.
Western Victoria.
Ah, right.
You grew that from seed, didn't
Yeah,
you?
that was last year.
Yeah.
No, yeah, last year. Takes 2 years to get the barren bubbles to it.
So it didn't take very long for them to grow from seed.
Oh, that's
What's
done.
the big pot?
These. I'll get to those in a minute.
Oh, the mentee.
Yeah. Not much, I'll get to them now. This is Drosera-Stricticaulis.
No, I put that on the button here.
Yeah, go on. See some exercise.
This is a very heavy one. And it's full of sand, so it's very heavy and it's full of water. Usually, most of these probably get watered by tray, a couple of centimetres. These ones, I can't be bothered to water them from tray, so I just sort of empty a 2-litre bottle over them every few weeks or so.
Well, the way the rain's been the last few years, we don't really need to do much.
Oh, they put these outside. When they're outside, the traps tend to get set off by the water and they tend to sort of float and look rather ugly, so I keep them under cover and just pour 2 litres of water on them every now and then, and that's about all they do. And they're very prolific, as you can see from here. I started with about 10 of them 3 years ago.
That is probably actually one species probably
Probably over 100 of them there. Drosera-Stricticaulis subspecies.
Pink rainbow is common name.
But you can see the flowers starting to form on them here. They look perceptibly small. They're actually quite large when they flower. They're about 3-4 centimetres across. Huge, big sort of metallic. Sort of tough, aren't they?
Yeah, mortality, especially with that bright light, they really do gleam.
But they're not scented or anything like some of these other species. They look rather nice.
Well, I must say the personality is different.
Same thing here, Drosera-Stricticaulis again. You can see it growing a bit differently. Actually, in the wild, they will grow as a sort of a scrambling plant or an erect plant like this.
Is that the same subspecies?
It usually happens when you grow them in a short pot like this. You notice the tubers in here when I potted them. Down there, so put them side by side. That's probably about right.
Right. So the pot with some tail left and tube it to the top.
Yeah, because they use a lot of energy to get up to the top, so if you get a much smaller plant, they're not going to grow like that. And they don't tend to flower as much. You get maybe 1 or 2 flowers, where this one's probably got about 4 on it.
Do you ever get your mentee eyes about branch occasionally?
No. maple basil rosettes at the bottom.
Yes, I've seen them, yeah.
So,
I've actually had a branch every so often, and it's quite interesting when they branch and produce two flowers at the same time at once.
alright.
That's why most of the homies going at once.
That is their sort of relative Drosera-Stricticaulis. Also is found in South Australia.
So the bigger are right next to it, actually.
Whose is this one?
Yes.
Is that from South Australia?
Don't know. And,
It looks like South Australian form, I must say.
That's what they pretty much look like in South Australia. Sometimes get them, I've seen them red in Victoria, sort of around Shepherd and the sort of hills around there.
but it's actually got hairy, sequel. It's actually Peltata.
Yeah, that's what
Yeah,
I'm saying.
it's
It's
not
not
that.
that.
It's not a daisy.
I'm certainly asleep, isn't it?
Yeah.
But it's got no nasal rosette.
That's the easiest way to
No,
tell
South
them apart.
Australian one quite often doesn't develop them when they're mature.
If you're out bushwalking and you want to tell them apart, just look at the flowers, and if it's hairy around the top, you know, you've got an auriculata, whereas if it's completely smooth, usually sort of dark green like this one.
That's a
That's
regular.
auriculata.
The hairy one is Peltata.
Peltata usually has a little rosette around the bottom, not always, like this one. This one doesn't have one.
Not necessarily the South Australian forms, but all of the South Australian forms are the mature ones. Although it's like if only used in the shade or something like that.
I've seen it quite often.
Yeah.
You can never quite tell whether they're going to have it or not.
It doesn't matter on the plant because they can do it 1 year and not 2 years.
So that's an auriculata again.
Yeah, that picks up in that bowl.
More of the auriculata here, but obviously a South Australian variety.
That one's actually got a true pink flower, not like the normal auriculata flower with the white interior, pink outside.
These ones are all self-pollinating, unlike most tuberous Drosera, so you don't have to go to any trouble to propagate them. They just produce a massive seed every year.
That's
Sprinkle them across the soil,
soil.
and away they go. I've got a huge big tray full of
Peltata, another interesting too, the thing is that Peltata is one of the few tuberous fungus of Ramisolia, except with others that will survive all year in wet soils. I've had a Ramisolia that's been in a picnic tube pot for now 3 years, and each year it keeps coming up. And that pot's never dried out.
another Peltata red bundle.
Yeah, that's Australian Peltata, and I brought that in because I'm showing comparison difference between the northern New South Wales variety and the South Australian form.
You probably can't see this anyway, but
There's subtle
that's
differences.
the rosette that I was talking about.
Yeah.
Whereas
The Lamia has quite a pronounced
Peltata
rosette.
doesn't have one at all, so sometimes you get it, sometimes you don't.
No, Lamia you always do. This particular variety always produces a quite large rosette of what comes up.
It's interesting how they do it. Another of the stoloniferous here, related to that, and that.
Plus the other
This
ones
is
in
stolonifera,
the
stolonifera. They tend to produce these sort of branches that come out from the base. You usually get about 5 of them, but this one split up this year, so you've got a second little plant coming out the side there. Using up a bit of the energy, so it can be kept to the way ahead up, we're going to stronger. That's a bit of an exam to find out.
I wonder if you can actually get part of the skeleton stuff.
It's quite interesting
They
they produce the flowers on the end of these things as well, so probably some more come out there as well. They actually seem to cross-pollinate between all these as well. I've crossed various ones of them and put them in next year and see what happens, I guess. See if they grow. So that might be CNC. There's one go. Cross those with one that's not getting stolen for the Drosera-Stricticaulis, which is one that goes sort of across the ground. Saw that one last night, sort of golden colour. But all the stoloniferas have the ordinary white flower, but the thing about them is they've got really nice scented flowers that sort of fill your greenhouse in around this time of the year. Greenhouse, you can get up to 20, 30 flowers open in one day on some of these plants. They're quite nice. So worth growing, and they're pretty easy to grow.
Yeah, it's definitely not easier than Western Australian fish.
And they usually split up quite well, as you can see there.
When you back up, stop watering them, just die back about the season.
Yeah, I usually stop watering them when you see the first signs of them starting to go black on the top. But the pots usually stay, especially a pot like that, they will stay wet until December. Stop watering them. Months. And they even though they look like they're dead on top, if you dig them up, you'll actually find that the they're still actually growing around all the new tubers and things. So.
In fact, if you start popping up and stuff like that, they start around January, February,
Yeah, that's
popping
right.
up, so when that finally settles down, it's going to be normalcy.
Yeah, if you dig them up too early, like in December, they'll start to rot.
Yeah.
Interesting thing I found with some of the tuber species, what I'm seeing the wild willikai, they get disturbed by wild animals being dug up. If one while I can see a willikai tuber on the ground surface, going up from the putting the new tuber droppers into the ground to form new tubers. There's some exposed tuber on the surface of the ground. They're quite tough, very tougher than a lot of people realise, but don't produce tubers that way. Stuff that I'll have to be able to watch them produce it.
And the last one I'll be talking about is pygmy Drosera, not at all related to any of the tubers.
Yeah, the Drosera.
Well, Drosera, of course. Also from Western Australia, and there's only one species is Drosera pygmy. This one's Drosera-Stricticaulis, which is very distinct. It grows vertically. For a pygmy Drosera, it's pretty
Pretty
most of them are only about 1 to 2 centimetres in diameter. These will actually get quite a bit bigger. These probably only got put in this year, maybe last year.
Last year, they're not this year.
If you let them go, they'll produce fantastic.
They'll actually produce their real roots too, but I've seen them grind it too.
The roots actually come down, sort of like droppers, and go into the soil and sort of anchor it down.
It's quite interesting seeing why almost putting it up. It's like what you know, the 7 point tower in New South Wales, Sydney, the tower there, that's called on high form similar to
and like the tuberous Drosera,
difference though is that you can keep them one day dormant.
you can, but they don't tend to grow as well.
You still lose 90% when you do that, I guess. So it's buggers if you do and buggers if you don't. Okay. Now, Chris has covered what the tuberous sun use very well. This is possibly a banana collar mustard dragon. I believe it was bred by an unknown exotic in, I think, England. That early 80s. Yes, it was. It's one of the first collar bars that actually came out of Drosera, called California Sunset and all the others. Now, I find it really a nice one. The reason it's called Madison's Dragon is because the way the cotton leaves hook up like that reminds me of the claws of a Chinese dragon. And it's a very tough and very beautiful plant. Parents are Multi-Iphia and Dichotomous giant. I haven't got Multi-Iphia, but Dichotomous giant, so they just breaking dormancy now. This doesn't bother with dormancy, it just grows through the whole of winter. It's very handy to have around. It can be forced into dormancy, but it doesn't really care. The wild bananas, when it comes to winter, they have to go dormant. If you try and force them out, it's like a big bypass, you just kill it.
They grow all winter, but very slowly.
These ones didn't do too bad actually, they picked up quite well. Soon it almost got killed in February. And we've also got Darlingtonii, or Cobra. Without that one, the more difficult carnivorous plants to grow in our climate. It doesn't like its roots going over 12 degrees. But once that happens, you can say goodbye to the plant.
Could I just make an interjection there? I've been reading some of the old bulletins, and one thing they said in just the first couple of issues, that back in the old days, they used to put it in the they used to grow it during the winter season, and stick it in the refrigerator over the summer period.
Basically what they were saying is that our climates are so much warmer than the US where this grows, we swap the climate around. This dormancy comes out sunny, shove it in the fridge when it's nice and cool, and it actually has its main growing season in winter, which equivalent to most other countries' springs and autumn.
And I think it was Robert Swinburne and who's the other chap who's gone over to Malaysia now?
I'll find about later. Okay, now we're going to the Budgie Nepenthe here actually, is Nepenthe ventricosa. I believe it comes from the Philippines. And this is probably one of the best Nepenthes to grow. There's a few different forms of it. This form here, a red form, and it's hardy, it's a bit like a highland, it doesn't mind the cool temperature at night and stuff like that. And it's definitely a good one for the beginners to have a shot at and stuff like that. On the other hand, we've got this little bell here. This is Margarina. I hope I pronounced it right. Now, I do know one thing about this. They say this one is 90% of its diet on termites in the wild. They're not sure why. There's different evidence that eats termites is its main preferred prey. So that makes it first, you know how most termite eat plant, well this one eats the termites. That again I think is a Highlander, isn't it? Yeah, a Highlander? Yeah. Yeah. Now with the Nepenthes, there's two broad categories, your Highlanders and your Lowlanders. Your Lowlanders is what everyone remembers as your classic Nepenthes. Hot, humid conditions, kept at 30 degrees. Or you want to, you can do it. But most of them, that 70% actually Highlanders, and they come from the mountaintop. And look at the attitude, they actually come from quite cool nights, quite warm days, and very variable weather. In fact, you try and grow them like this, they won't like it. They do like the cooler nights. That crop, no way better than Wilson maybe in summer in South Australia. These ones don't have way better than summer, that's in a greenhouse. They need a greenhouse. But they're still very nice plants to grow, and this one's actually producing a vapor rosette. Another little rosette on there, so someone could get cut in soon, I imagine. Other than that, oh yes, just a quick show of this one here. Probably have to come up and have a look at it. Now, imagine everyone's done it sooner or later, got in a pot and let it dried out. A lot of Australian natives, they do have white, and South Africans have a lot of resistance in their roots drying out, they become dormant basically. Now, most species will take 2 or 3 months. Hamiltonia just down, that takes 6 months to break dormancy once it's been dried out. As you can see from these plants, the whole pot went bone dry in February, and it's taken 6 months for the plants to start breaking dormancy. Drosera-Stricticaulis is another good species for that. They'll only take about 2 months to start breaking dormancy after they've been dried out. Pretty hard to kill in other words. So if you dry out a lot of the Droseras, and if you know they come from a fairly dry climate, don't throw the pot away. Give them a couple of months in moist conditions, and you'll probably get your plant back for free. Don't have to go rush off and buy another one. And usually, actually, one of the big things I've heard with most of the carnivorous plants, patience is a very much of a virtue in germination in a lot of other areas. Anyway, that's what I need.
Does anyone have any questions or want to know anything about any of these? Finish or? No?
Just get them one.
Excellent. Do we want to have a vote for the best plan?
Yes,
Can I suggest we start with?
start with, yeah, the Venture Ventricosa. I'm not going to pick that
Did you
one up.
talk about a couple of those?
No, the Comodoos, yeah. They come from Oregano, very cold climates, Northern California. They actually live above the snow line. And that's about probably a 4 or 5 year old plant.
Got this one.
Yeah,
Then we got this small
yeah.
plant that's from Carnivorous.
2 years ago.
2 years ago.
Yeah.
It's
Not bad.
Not bad, that's
But I mean,
take 3 years to get to that size.
it's longer than 3, isn't it? I mean,
Take 5 years to
3
get
years
to
ago.
go.
3 years ago, I
Yeah.
I think 3 years ago we got it.
That was some egg
Has
food, wasn't it?
anyone seen the Carnivorous plant display there recently? Don't, please, you'll be horrified.
I like that little.
Anyone vote for the Cobra?
We had a couple.
Does that look like a winner yet? Or?
Yeah, you guys got the Nepenthes. Okay. Subspecies compacted, the red one here. Yeah, that one last time. Let's go for the SLACKII. Hermanus, Carnivorous. Yeah, that's understandable. Let's say somehow the Hermanus is one. Yeah, that's still enough price to make sure no one else can.
Thank you.
I just want to make a comment. The compactor, the interesting thing about the compactor is that the actual droplets of news leaves are almost arranged in a sphere, which is quite different from all the others. I mean, it's very striking when you
Yeah,
see
you notice that
It's actually not quite a sphere, I think it's more itself.
Remote, yeah.
But quite different from the others, which tend to be more like that.
You can have a look on the other subspecies that's not here that I've got.
Which one is that?
The subspecies Rubicon has a lot bigger drops than these ones, and you notice them a lot more on those.
Yes, this one.
These ones tend to be really small.
I'll just go as like this. The nominated species is True fossilised. We should give the nominated species.
No, actually, that's a mistake. That's a mistake. That's a mistake. It was any.
It's a mistake.
Any CP. It was a mistake.
Well, the other gentleman did not have a mark on the Australian foreign domain.
Have a look at the minutes of the last meeting. No, I copied it up. Sorry.
Thank you. Thank you too. Have a look. We had thought that it would cost $170, but in fact it was going to cost $260 because as well as the cost of the display, you had to be a member of the Royal Society or whatever it is, Show Society. So it's going to cost actually $100 extra. And we had a meeting and we were talking about it, and we decided that given the limited time span, we probably wasn't viable. We got some of the material.
Also, there's going to be a bus strike probably in that week too, for 5 days they're hoping for.
Let's hope. Yeah. But at any rate, to cut a long story short, we decided that due to the extra cost and the fact that the short time span to prepare materials for the display, we decided that it was probably best not to go ahead with the display at the Royal Show, but concentrate rather on our November show, which I've got as a separate little item there in the general business. And I don't want to say too much about the November show here, but simply that we thought that we would probably be better off if we devoted our time to advertising and promoting the November show and make sure we have a good display with a good variety of plants, etc. for that, than try and sort of rush something for the Royal Show that was liable not to be up to sufficient standards. It will be the last weekend in November, and I believe. Well, not really. I mean, last year we had. See, you say that, but last year, and I don't think it's going to be any warmer. But last year it was like basically the week before the end of November. It was almost the last weekend in November last year, and it almost wasn't enough into the growing season of the plants for that advance. Yeah, and it rained. I mean, I think the last weekend in November is certainly can't really be any earlier than that. With the way the Adelaide weather's going, I don't think.
Must admit, this year's been good without a decent windfall, so we can't go through the storms.
Oh yeah, that's right. They're very dormant.
Well, my parents in the sun, right? Fine.
Oh, Carnivorous plants.
They have it in Australia?
Sorry?
They have it in Australia?
No, you can see the world too if you want to go and visit this. It's on next June, middle of summer, in 2004. No, it's the middle of summer. Because it's in Lyon in France. So if anyone is taking a European holiday and wants to incorporate that, then there's a few of those brochures around as well. But I'll invite everyone. There's some snacks, a cup of tea and coffee and little hot food available from Fred. So still around a chat. So thank you.
Michael, when I went to school, hydrogen lived above lithium on the periodic table. Why is it shifted to above fluorine?
That's a dark periodic table, I'd say. It's still meant to be over there on above lithium. Hydrogen's actually sort of out on its own these days.
It's a metalloid, semi-metallic material under the right conditions, and other times it's non-metallic.
Well, that's why it's supposed to be above lithium.
Well, that's
it's also got non-metallic properties.
Not above fluorine.
I came across this book in a bookshop. It was almost raining down cats and dogs. I walked up to a Sunday mail and the shop didn't have it, so I walked up another block. Came across this bookshop and it's selling this old book, Randall Schwartz book for $4.
I've never even seen that one.
No,
never. Oh, I've got it and suddenly realised I wanted the Alan Swanson one. That's the one I'm really after.
Oh, right.
But I also found this one in the same shop. It's the companion to the Nature Watch video series that we used to have in the library back in the... Do you have that at all, by any chance?
That's one with David SLACKII, isn't it?
I remember seeing it.
Yeah, because I've read one of the old bulletins. It used to be librarian or something. But this has a chapter in the book, a complete chapter of about 15 pages on Adrian Slack, that accompanies the video. And it fills in quite a few gaps about how he got into the hobby and it shows some of the pictures from his trip to the open swamp. And You want to pass it around? Just have a look at the photographs and you want to pass it around? And the same with this one, you want to pass it around? As long as I get them back at the end, I don't mind.
You want it back?
How many pieces do you want attacking?
And you want to pass these around and have a look? We're almost getting there, almost.
Don't drink it. Keep the plants in your house.
There's no bugs or anything on them because, you know, you really need hormones to promote that.
That's the thing he's saying.
Yeah, but Lonnie's seen this, they've been on my windowsill since January.
Yeah, that's not bad.
Normally a plant I would have just got rocket by now. And
That's true. Could also be the temperature to affect the soil temperature to reduce the growth rate.
The other thing I want to show you is I've always wondered why Australia has the most species of carnivorous plants in the world. I mean, I've been wondering this for years, but when I saw
I
this
think we've got the funniest
in this
songs in the
book,
world.
I thought it was pretty damn obvious that this had something to do with. This shows the overview of serpentine, and about 1/5 of Western Australia has this patchy serpentine, and this is like a generalised map. I mean, if you went to a more detailed map, you'd find other places around here where mild locations are found as well. But yeah, when I saw this map, I thought it said bingo. I thought it was about 10 years ago. And this book is called Serpentine and its Vegetation. It's the first English language book to collate all scientific papers around the world. Some of them are in Swedish and Russian and other far distant languages, but they've all been translated and collated into this book. And it's worth a read. It took me about 8 months to get into this book, and I still can't absorb it all. There's just so much in this book. But it's by a New Zealander, Richard R. Brooks, and he came over to Adelaide Uni a few years ago to work on what they're talking about archaeological dig sites. They can use the plants that grow in a certain area to find hidden artifacts underneath, because the metals sort of corrode and the plants go for the metals and they grow. Particular plants will grow there, and it's sort of like it's an indicator of what's underneath the ground. So, yeah. And you can usually pick it up in all sorts of bookshops, remainder bookshops for quite reasonable prices too. Right, as you probably know, I'm handing out these samples of peat for you to go home and stick a Drosera-Stricticaulis in and a Drosera-Donata. The things I want you to look for is like, do you get any scum growing on the top of your pot, you know, algae, moss or anything? Does the peat shrink away from the sides like it normally does? Does the water that's in your control, whatever, do you see any more tannins anymore? You shouldn't, but you might do. Does the pot smell any differently? I've noticed after about 6 or 7 weeks I get a different smell in the pot. So it implies that there's a different microbial flora building up. I think I've smelt this sort of smell in nursery pots before, so I'm wondering if it's this so-called trichoderma, whether we found a cheap alternative to buying those trichoderma pellets. Does it just, if you get it right, does it just grow naturally in the pot? Because trichoderma feeds off is one of the things it feeds off is penicillium in the soil. The stuff that forms the antibiotic, the organism that forms the penicillin, the antibiotic. And then that should keep the pot in a healthier, stable environment. Do you get any smell of H2S? That's another thing. If you leave it in the water for any length of time, do you get the usual bad, eggy smell, or is it totally not there anymore? These are things I want you to watch out for and to just note. You can put other things in there as well, like a bit of utricularia dichotoma, anything you feel like you want to try to see how it goes. And if you can see, if you can record against your other plants, roughly the rate at which it grows, like if you put another capensis in your normal potting soil next door to it, and just compare the rates. Do any roots come out at the bottom of the pots? Because back in the old days when we used to grow capensis, I've run around with quite a lot of people, and they used to grow things in black swamp soil from the southeast, like Ray Nash, for example. He never used, in the old days, never used the bale peat. He was using black swamp soil from the southeast, and he used to get big, fat, like half-centimetre thick roots, big red ones, and they used to come out the holes in the bottom of the pot, and the plant. In the old days, the plants used to be as tall as the pot was deep. You have a 6-inch pot, and we haven't seen things like that for 20 years. So just be very observant, and just if you can note it down and bring it into the next meeting. And hopefully, as we go through spring and summer, we should see some differences. And as I said, start off with Drosera-Stricticaulis because that's really an underrated plant because it's one they call it a weed, and also, but it's really it's a South African jewel in a way, and in fact it's so articulated, I suppose, if that's the word, where it can actually completely roll over an insect. I think there's only one other that's Drosera-Regia that can actually do that complete rolling over of an insect. So hopefully this might lead us into growing Drosera-Regia because I think it's Robert Gibson from New South Wales. He has made the connection between Drosera arcturi and Drosera-Regia, and I personally believe there's also a connection to Drosera-Capensis, but in the wild, Drosera-Capensis is quite rare. It's Drosera-Hilaris, which is the weed over there, compared to Drosera-Capensis, and also Drosera-Capensis actually grows, I think, grows about 1,000 feet, so it's actually growing up in mountainous areas, and they have to take quite extensive trips to actually go and see it in the wild, because we've recently had some South African bulletins turn up in the library recently, and I rang the woman over in South Africa, because they actually sent them to us in 1998, but we've only recently got them. 2 meetings ago they turned up in the library. All sorts of things have been turning up in the library, but I won't say anything more about that. It's good to have them. Because if I say anything, then the rest of the stuff might not turn up, you see.
Anyway.
Okay, we'll move on. And I rang this lady in South Africa, and they're eager to...
Richard, just interrupt for a sec. If anybody wants some sausage rolls, pies, they're out there.
No.
I thought everyone was going to get their food first.
Oh,
Yeah,
we've got to get it first then. I think basically, it's all in the sheet really, I don't really need to talk at all.
Make your lucky star.
Read the sheet, come back next week and tell me what's happened and the meeting after and so on and so right through the spring and summer season. And
It's nice to do that every day.
I'll get that. Sorry. You bowled it once before? Want it again? Oh, okay.
There you go.
Oh, well, you deserve it. You need it.
If you look inside them, they're actually more whitish. This one has a full pink colour.
I have seen auriculatus in the hill.
Yeah.
They look like this. Red. Auriculatus.
And also I found the auriculatus too, where the just behind the patch is a little red patch, so that's another patch of red on it.
Oh, that's lovely. That really is. Is that yours? Which one is that?
In Peltatas,
Yeah.
all plants don't
Yeah,
produce
that's what I mean. This is a
okay.
plant and one which is rosette again. But that's the same form. Glad me, yeah. Have a look at the size rosette it has.
And this one is...
That's quite a pronounced rosette, and I've always found they produce it year
Oh,
after
wow.
year.
A Wimmer form.
It's not New South Wales, no.
Wow, that really is so much better than all the red on there.
They always produce a rosette.
Things usually go blood red, but it's
Wow. Any darker, it'll be black, you know.
The penicillin is interesting.
Did you get better weather?
Have you got any of that
I'll give you one. Did you get a sample of the pea?
Some of mine are about that long now. Really cool class and they're pretty sad.
I don't know. Is that the Wimmer thing again?
Yeah, that's Wimmer.
It's Wimmer. It's the same as this thing here.
Probably should have brought in my
That from
should have brought
Wimmer?
in Drosera.
Yeah, it's the same one.
Is that the same variety as that one? No, I didn't think so. That's not
That's from
Wimmer. Where's that from?
probably down further south.
Ah, right.
Oh, okay. So colder.
what is it?
Wimmer.
Victoria, Western Victoria.
Auriculata
More
Wimmer.
than 100 kilometres.
Oh, what's this
Quite
one?
a strong red format, they must say.
That's a very nice one.
Tell you what, I've got this great person to come along with my kids and go snip, 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 and just take a bite. That's all I need.
Yeah, that's,
One leaf of each.
Not cutting
Hey?
not having it.
Oh, I've got such a thing too.
I want one too.
I'll tell you what, I'll get a couple of and I'll start spreading them around. I've got a few plants I'm going to do that with. The Capillary is typical form that...
Feel how many's left over. Well, someone's taken the top off already, thawing out. Oh, slowly. Just film all the others.
Oh, I see.
Historically, you never in 20 years' time, if I'm still alive, I'll sit back and watch this and say, oh, I remember the day. I don't take half of them back home again. It's good though, I can pile up all my compensers in there.
All you what?
Well, I did all this work. I might as well use them myself.
What are you going to put in there?
Compensers, just like you're doing. That's the South African sundew.
Oh, yes.
The Cape sundew. Oh, yeah.
Compensers.
You're right about your memory going, the old chap.
Oh, it's horrible. Horrible.
Yeah, well, Brian's supposed to come in and pick up his fertiliser.
You know, I'm going to...